In this video, I changed both the belts and both of the tensioners for the big ol' 740i that barely fits in my spot. Let's go. Welcome back, team. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are in the world. I hope that you're feeling good. And if that's the case, you know what to do. Pass that on so that someone else can feel just as good as you are today. Now, we'll wait for that traffic while I unpack what we're doing with the 740i today. This is directly from FCP Euro. I have a Continental belt. I have a second Continental belt. This is for the AC. I'm going to have an INA, I don't know how it's pronounced, but there's two pulleys to the 740i. One of the pulleys is going to run, or actually two tensioners, sorry. One of the tensioners runs the AC and gives the AC belt the tension that it needs. The other pretty much handles the rest. Alternator, water pump, and that's what this one is for. It's a little bit of a weird design because, of course, BMW. So this is going to be installed along with the AC tensioner. Now the AC tensioner is actually two pieces. So there's the AC tensioner pulley and the actual tensioner itself, which is going to be the hydraulic tensioner. And both of these are going to play a part, or are going to actually work together to tension the AC belt. Outside of that, FCP's lifetime replacement guarantee that basically states that you will crash the car before we ever have to send you another free part. At least that's what they're banking on. But if you ever need another tensioner, another belt, because you keep the car that long, FCP Euro will send it to you for free as long as you send the old ones back. Cool story, bro. I do hope I get to use it. I hope I keep this car until 500,000 miles. That'd be outstanding. So that's all we have for now. Let's get to the tools that you'll need for the job. 32 or 1 1/4 inch open-ended wrench or a combination wrench, a long screwdriver, a pipe or some sort of device that will allow you to get more leverage over your wrench, a couple, more than two maybe, as many as you have actually is the best outcome here, of your extensions, a 17-inch socket, a 13-inch socket right here, a 10-inch socket, a Torx 50, a 10mm wrench, open-ended or close-ended, a 13mm wrench, again open or close-ended, a couple of ratchets because at some point you're going to need more than one ratchet at the same time, a rag because we're all dirty boys, some gloves so you keep your ladylike hands nice and clean, a couple of wheel chocks, one or more jack stands to put into your car. Depending on how you want to do this job, you might have more than one, and of course your jack. Now a couple of things to note before we start about the fan and the fan clutch. First of all, the fan, treat it very carefully like a hungry woman. You do not want to damage it. You do not want to hit it by accident while you're taking all of this apart. So be very, very careful. Number two, the threads that thread the fan to the water pump pulley are reverse threads, meaning when we're cranking away here, get it in focus again. Yeah. When we're cranking away that way, it's going to be to loosen. Righty, not tighty. Righty, loosey, lefty, tighty. The biggest thing here is looking at this nut. This is going to be a 32mm or I think it's an 1.25 inch. And that's the nut that gives everyone nightmares. That's the nut that takes you to therapy. It makes you quit religion and start drinking again. So I have a little trick for that nut that I'm going to show you right now that's going to make life easier for all of us. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at those two bolts right there. Those are the bolts that adjust and hold tension of the tensioner. Go ahead and undo both of those. The plan here is to relieve tension from the belt. Don't worry too much about the routing of the belt, I will throw up a routing diagram on the screen later on in the video so you can reference back to that and know exactly how the belt goes. Use just a long screwdriver, and you kind of want to get in there carefully and just take that belt off of the pulley, but don't take it off of this pulley. We still need to work with this one, which is your nut, where your nut for the fan is. Leave it around this pulley, go ahead and take it off of all the other pulleys. So here is the belt that I've taken off of every other single pulley except for the water pump pulley. And I've looped that belt around the water pump pulley all the way around until this loop right here will go over the alternator pulley. And then all you would do is get your 32 or 1 1/4 wrench, hook it onto that nut, and then the tension from that belt will allow you to, it'll hold the pulley in place while you crank to the right. And again, righty is going to be loosey and lefty is going to be tighty because it is reverse thread. So now that I have the fan removed, lo and behold, I see that this blade is actually cracked. That one's done for, so I'm not gonna risk putting that back on. I'm gonna have to order it. Usually I go through Pelican Parts, so with COVID right now, we'll see who is the fastest shipping company out there. Look at all the room for activities now. It's so nice. Yay, old belt. This actually, actually this belt is looking great. It doesn't mean I'm gonna reuse it, but it definitely looks really good. So yeah, that's done. At this point, inspect your pulleys. Make sure that there's no cracks on the pulleys. I mean, after all, they are plastic. Some of them anyway. That's not good. So these are the tensioner pulleys, and they shouldn't spin freely like that. That is not a good sign. They definitely should have some resistance to them, and both of these are spinning like they are skateboard wheels. Now to get the tensioner off, you're gonna have to remove 3 bolts. This is gonna be this 13, the one that you loosened earlier, along with the one right behind it right there, and then the last one that's holding this top pulley is going to be at the bottom here. That one is going to be a T50 on the top pulley. After removing all that, we're done working on the top for now. So we're gonna come over here and we're gonna work on the bottom to get the AC tensioner and belt off. So jack up your car like so. Make sure to have the wheel chock placed properly. And of course, have your handy dandy trustworthy jack stand from Harbor Freight that will never let you down, that will never break your heart, right under your subframe. Once you have that all in place, it's time to work right here. Now down here we're going to remove these 2. That's a 10, that's a 13, and then we'll be able to remove one more up there, and I'll show you that later. You see the tension release from here. So now take that belt off while you're at it. There it is, super simple belt. I'll give you the diagram routing in just a moment. So after removing these 2 right here, the last one you're gonna have to remove is gonna be this one all the way up here. It's gonna be at the top of this hydraulic. Not this one, but it's gonna be all the way up here. If I move it around, you can see it pivot on that one. So once we remove this one, which is a 13, we'll be able to drop the whole assembly down and replace it with a new one. I'm gonna start with the AC tensioner and the pulley first. The new ones come separate, so I'm gonna have to move over this bracket, and I'm gonna have to move over some of these bolts, reuse them for the new one. This other tensioner already comes pre-assembled, so there's really nothing that we need to do on that one except for just move over these two bolts. One of them is for tightening, securing it. The other one is for the adjustment. And just be aware that they're different sizes. Now, it is really kind of common sense on how they're gonna go, because if you do this and then you do that, well, I mean, that's not gonna work. So, okay. It's not hard, but it's also not like super common sense. It took me a while to understand it, and it's fine. I mean, it's alright if it takes you a little bit longer to get it. This will take up some of your slack of the free play that you have. So top of the adjustment, the bottom of the adjustment. And of course, one of the things you've done before getting to this point is you have compared the new and the old belt to make sure that they're gonna be the same size. The AC belt goes at the very back of the crankshaft pulley. So there's two tracks in the crankshaft pulley. The one closest to the engine is going to be a little bit slimmer for the slimmer belt, which is the AC belt. Then it's separated by a ridge, and then the outer portion or the outer track is going to be for the accessory belt, which runs everything else, which is that other tensioner that we have to install after this. You can't get them wrong, because you'll see that it doesn't line up at all. So now we're gonna remove all of the tension by kind of going down on it like that. You are going to tighten the 13mm center bolt just enough to have a little bit of resistance when this moves. You're gonna grab your 17, you're gonna lock it right here, and you're also gonna grab your 10, and you're gonna have that bad boy ready right there. So as you move the 17 clockwise, the top pulley, the pulley here is going to move up and create tension on that belt. So you do that, you will see this bracket move down, or this appear to travel up. Once it bottoms out right there with the 10, just tighten it. Let it go. Switch over to your 13 and finish tightening this one. I don't have all the specs, but basically it's what I like to call wrist tight. Not with all the leverage in the world, but more like right here. The same with when you're doing it with this. It's right there. Yep, that should be good enough. Now, if after you're done and you start the car, you see that it's loose, then you can stop and tighten it a little bit more. It's not the end of the world. You're gonna be fine. So now onto the top tensioner pulley. I already have it placed in here and situated, so I don't bore you with that. But next, you're gonna grab your 250 and your ratchet. Make sure that you're set to tighten, and make sure that that's in there nice and nicely placed into the torque screw. Otherwise you can strip it, and that's a really bad thing. After you have the Torx 50 snug, you're gonna go ahead and install both of these. Now the bottom one, that is the adjustment, the locking adjustment. This is the bracket that moves back and forth, and this is the 17 that's welded onto the bracket that's going to help you move it. This other one that I'm installing it right now by hand, that is going to be the one that takes up some of that slack, so that it's has some drag when you move that bracket. Now these are just gonna be installed by hand right now. I would just go by hand as much as you can until it tops out, and then we're gonna be installing the belt. So now that we have the belt situated and routed properly, the next step is going to be messing with these two. Now you're gonna need a 13 with probably an extension on the bottom bolt, and then you're gonna need a 17 with probably some sort of elongated handle. You need some leverage. You're going to crank the 17 towards the passenger side, and with the other hand, your left hand, you're gonna have your extension ready on the 13, which is going to lock it into place. So while you hold it cranked, you're going to lock it into place. You'll see the pulleys move and you'll feel the tension. Now this is a lot of tension compared to the AC compressor because this is going around a lot more pulleys. So again, just crank it until it tops out, just like the AC compressor, and then tighten it with your non-dominant hand that has the extension on the 13. After you have tightened those two, that should be it. The last thing to do is to actually put the fan and the fan clutch back on. However, mine is broken and I need to buy a new one, so I'm gonna not do that on this video, but that would pretty much be the reverse of how we removed it. You would go, in this case, because lefty is going to be tighty, you would thread it towards the left, so that would be counterclockwise, and you would also tighten it that way. Now, when it comes to tightening that fan clutch, the easiest way to do that is, since you have a brand new belt, a brand new tensioner, and the tension should be correct, as long as you did everything I told you, it should be enough tension on there where you can just put your 32 mil and then tap it with a hammer. Give it a couple of blunt taps towards the left. So in this case, it would be counterclockwise, and the tension of the belt should be enough for that nut to hold on like it should be. Now, as far as torquing that down, the way that the engine spins and the way that the fan spins actually kind of tightens it as it turns. I know it sounds a little bit sketch, but do your research on that. It's not a big deal. You can just tap it lightly a couple of times with your hammer, and then the car will do the rest when you start the vehicle and start driving. So last thing to do is just to start the car. And of course, you can't start the vehicle with the belt, with the fan off. This light keeps dying, I apologize. With the fan off, you still have the auxiliary fan on your radiator, but this just basically lets me see that everything seems to be spinning properly, the belt seems to be properly routed and properly tightened. I don't have the squeak anymore, so that in my book is a win. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please give it a like, give it a share, subscribe to the channel, and I'll try to keep bringing content like this, content that will help you be a little bit more comfortable doing things yourself, so that hopefully you don't have to always take your car to the shop and spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Maybe a little bit of patience and a little bit of guidance will go a long way in your life. Once again, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace out.